Welcome to the Porsche Club Insider, your one stop for all things Porsche and PCA. Here's your host, Vu Nguyen, and the Insider crew.
Welcome, everyone. We have a treat for you. Today, the show is on the road. We're at the Porsche Experience Center in Atlanta. I don't know if the microphones are going to pick up the planes that are flying across.
Directly in the flight path.
Yeah, so we've got a cool scene here, so we might get distracted while we're doing this podcast. Specifically, we're in the new vehicle delivery room where folks that take delivery of the cars in Atlanta, they have the cars show up here. It's under a cloth and it gets unveiled, and they get to sign these cool boards that they took delivery of their car here. Before we get into it, I want to make sure we thank Pirelli for their sponsorship. Without their support, this show would not happen. I want to thank all of you that are listening. If you aren't currently a PCA member and you own a Porsche, grab that VIN, head over to PCA.org and make yourself a PCA member. For those of you that don't currently own a Porsche, we have the test drive program. Again, join as a test drive participant, and we unlock resources to find that special Porsche for you. And one of the things that you get when you become a PCA member is you actually have the opportunity to enter our PCA member-only raffle, which this spring we are offering as a first grand prize, a GT3 plus $35,000. And we crossed the threshold where we're starting to add more grand prizes as of today. And we're adding a second grand prize, which is a 911 Carrera, again with a $35,000 cash prize. So hopefully the club itself is more than a reason to join PCA, but now you have one more reason, and that's to possibly win a very cool car. Manny?
We can't, but yes, somebody's going to come
We
off.
We can't.
Come off very happy.
So Manny's at the table here. Damon is behind the scenes manning all the production equipment. So Damon, thank you so much for putting all this together, because when it's on the road, it is extra tough for him. So we appreciate all his work. The gentleman to my left here, product spokesperson for Cayenne, Panamera, Macan, and Taycan for Porsche Cars North America. But I believe I met him more than a decade ago, and he's in that first meeting he brought something very special for us, and this is Calvin Kim. Calvin, welcome to the show.
How you doing, guys? Good to be here.
What I'm referring to is roughly 2014,
something like that.
One of if not the very first Works reunion, you brought over a very special car, and Manny is, I think, one of the very few people that have driven this car.
The 918 Spider.
918 yep. Spider, and I believe we also have a photo in the office commemorating that event. But let's start with your position and what you're doing these days.
Yeah, so I'm one of the spokespeople that's here. My particular roles and responsibilities include, media relations, managing press fleet, finding cool new ways to tell the story of our brand, things like this. And in particular, my sub areas of expertise are our four-door model lines, like you said, the Cayenne, the Macan, the Panamera, and the Taycan. In the past, I've done a lot more, like, doing the 918s and everything like that. And it's never a dull moment. Every day is a new day. As the media landscape continuously changes, it's been really exciting to as a former journalist, see how that industry has changed and moved and try to keep up with that, and stay on top of it and, just have fun with this great brand.
We say it all the time that we're kind of living the dream to be able to, we're working here, we're around a subject matter that we absolutely love. How did you land at Porsche?
Long story short, I was, a regular car journalist, writing about cars, doing reviews, testing them, and there was back then it was called product experience manager or something position that opened up.
Okay.
And one of the PR spokespeople at the time suggested I apply for that, and they wanted someone with a little bit more technical background, and I happened to fit the bill, and I moved from sunny Southern California to Atlanta.
That's a commitment.
Yeah.
You really do love the job.
Yeah,
it's tough to pull people from the West Coast. What I love about you is, not just the corporate speak, but you're a diehard car person through and through, and you work on your own cars. You actually own a car that many of us love. You want to tell us about that?
You're talking about the Mark 7 Golf All-Track, I assume.
Well, that is
That too, yeah.
That too. I mean, that is a cool car, but I'm talking the one where maybe today it's not as controversial, but a decade ago it was probably a very controversial car and a lot of internet lore and stuff like that. But we all love them. In fact, I'm going to hopefully enjoy mine at an autocross next weekend, and that's your 996.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that car. It's the first modern Porsche. In fact, if anything, actually, now I think back at it, that is the first Porsche I ever drove was a 996 Coupe on a track of all places with at Willow Springs. And it wasn't my first exposure to Porsche, but it was the first kind of tactile experience, actually being in the car with it running. And clearly that memory has not gone away.
So what made you decide on a 996?
I think it's one thing to work for Porsche, but really, being around. Now, granted, yes, I deal mainly with media, but through PCA and through other ancillary events, I get to deal with our customers.
Right.
And as a whole, they're so enthusiastic about the brand. They just embody I felt the most connected to them.
Yeah.
And you could say, because you work for Porsche. But on the flip side, I mean, how a person is, does the car define the person or does the person define the car?
I would say PCA folks definitely see your street cred when you actually own one, especially if you own an older one, right?
Yeah.
Like they know, like you can be a product person and know all the facts and figures, but if you don't go home and open the garage or,
I know exactly
have a smallish toolbox,
Yeah.
even a smallish toolbox, and work on your own cars, like you don't have the cred.
I'm sorry for taking this totally off course, but many a day has gone by where, when I'm working from home, for example, I'll have like a 30-minute block in between meetings. I'll just go into the garage, sit inside, get in the car, sit and just
See, and that's what you need to understand how the PCA member's mind works, because it's more than just purchasing a vehicle and just driving it. It's like it's a mindset, it's a lifestyle, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, everyone at this table, but when you carry that and when you go to events, people can, PCA members can see that. And more importantly, we talked about this earlier, when we talk about the four doors later, when you're selling to a person that is just buying a car coming from a different manufacturer versus talking to a Porsche owner, it's a very different conversation for the same product.
Well, I feel like once you need to really be in their shoes, as the customer. What's their journey like? And I don't mean purchase journey, which is what you think of when you think of like working for an OEM.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about their kind of journey with the brand as just an individual and their interests, how they got, like for example, the other question you ask is, what was that moment when you first was exposed to the brand? And I had two moments really. The first was when I was a little kid, like 10 years old, I had a tutor, and that tutor, because I passed the testers, I don't even remember what the context was. We went to a Porsche dealership in Southern California, Norwalk. I think it's McKenna, probably. And that was my first exposure to cars, and that's when I woke up.
Is that when you got an A, they took you to the Porsche dealership?
Something
as a prize?
As a prize, yeah. And
they need to reward kids like that more often. Then we would have more.
I never got A's, so.
but that's the thing, is to understand kind of how people's kind of influence their journey, what triggers that. And for me, it was that moment. It was I remember to this day that feeling, that sound of the door closing, the feeling of the leather, the shifter. Yeah. It was a 964 red Targa with the black leather interior.
Nice.
That's why I have a soft spot for Targas, even though I don't own one. But that's when I woke up. Like, I distinctly remember when my automotive consciousness turned on. Because before then, I liked mechanical things. My dad and my uncles would get mad at me because I'd take apart stereos and tools and appliances. But that was the first time I kind of, hey, this is more than just a thing that's just utilitarian, like a drill or a stereo. This is something that transcends that.
Yep.
And I don't think
I'm pretty sure everyone that's listening to the podcast right now has that particular moment.
I totally agree.
Where the brand came into their life and it was planted, and it would flourish over a number of years, and then that one day you get the car. And your 996 is also, I think it's a cab, isn't it?
It's
a cab, but it's also a very unique color.
Yeah, it's a rainforest green metallic, which is medium rarity, I'd say. Okay. But the interior is graphite gray. and the top's graphite gray. So that combo is really rare.
Yeah.
What year is it?
It's a 01.
Yeah, nice.
01, yeah, regular 96, and that's kind of what drew me to it. I didn't want a regular car. I don't think I have regular. I like to get unique cars that are not on the surface very special, but when you kind of dig a little bit, they are.
Sure.
And yeah, that's a great. I love that car. I mean, my first road trip with that, my first big road trip with that was actually to Rennsport, and I was wrenching on that car.
You drove it from here to Rennsport?
Oh yeah, and I literally was working on it the day that I left. And
Wow.
in between meetings, I would do a meeting on the Friday. I remember because it was the last Friday before Rennsport, and so we had a lot of like, hey, is everything dotting the I's and crossing the T's. And I'd go back and forth, meeting. Okay, everything's good. And then I'd go underneath my car, and I did a VarioCam pad replacement.
Holy cow.
And yeah, I had full engine out.
I told you he has street cred.
And,
he has street cred. But you just elevated your street cred because I didn't realize you drove
and
from here
it was
to
crazy.
Rennsport.
Man, and I did the big mistake that I know a big Porsche mechanic who has mentioned before. If you follow the instruction, the workshop manual,
Yeah.
you'll time the opposite bank by 360 degrees.
Oh, yeah.
And that's exactly what happened with my car.
Yes.
And
We
I knew
mentioned that in the video.
And I knew exactly what it was. And I was
Yeah.
like, I know exactly what. So I will never forget that panic, that cold sweat, crawling into the car. It's like 3:30 in the afternoon, and I was
my
like, okay, look,
God.
if I'm done with this at 6, I'll go. I'll take it. If not, I'm just gonna fly. And I was like, I'm gonna try it. And I remember getting down there. The engine at that point was already. No, the engine still wasn't in the car.
I was going to say,
Oh
it
my
can't,
God.
can't have been in the engine yet.
And
mean,
I pulled the pad off. I was doing it by myself, so I set up my GoPro to stream to my phone. So I'm like in the engine compartment, moving the crank, looking at my phone with the GoPro just to make sure really that cam gear is not moving.
Wow.
And I got it set, zipped it back, torqued it all, did all that stuff.
Respect.
And I remember
Calvin, respect.
the first time I turned it on, oh my God, I'm like, it was surreal.
And then for you to say, okay, I think I would have
I think I'm good. Well, at that point, like you said, you have your little toolbox.
And how many hours?
A lot. I mean, I drove nonstop when I left. I left a little bit later than I thought I was, obviously. And I'll never forget going to the Buc-ee's at Leeds. That was my go-no-go moment.
Oh.
I figured I knew I could get the car running, but could I get it running well enough to actually go all the way to Monterey? And so when I drove out west on the 20, I had enough gas in the car already to be able to get to Leeds.
Yeah.
So I got to the Buc-ee's there, opened up my laptop. I have PUDIS on it, and I plugged in the car, checked all the values, was looking at camshaft deviation, make sure did a full fan check, did I mess anything up? Look,
Wow.
got my flashlight looking underneath for any oil leaks. It's dry as a bone. All my camshaft deviations are good. I was like, called my wife. Yeah, I think I'm going.
Wow.
And I just kept going.
Just kept going. And then return.
Well, on the return I shipped it back because
okay.
I actually have a full-time job. So
Yeah. Wow. That's a dream of mine is to be able to do a cross-country trip. And I just haven't had, the furthest
Have your
I've
engine out 3 hours before you leave?
Well,
Is
definitely.
that part of the dream?
No. That's I will confess that is not something that
Because
I would
when
do.
we took his engine out, it took him I think 2 months before he drove it more than 3 miles. It
Yeah,
was, It was like a drive around the circle, then back in again.
Back in, look to see if there's any leak, and there was like one little drop. I'm like, oh no, I'm not taking it any further. And
Well, I figured,
I'm very risk averse.
From here to Leeds is, not just a couple miles. So I figured, you know what, oil pressure's good, everything's working. If it's still dry by the time I get out to here, it'll be fine.
Wow, I think that's almost like the definition of I'm just gonna send it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put it together.
Well,
I'm gonna send it. If
I
it's
bought the car earlier that year in January because of that. I figured, okay, Rennsport's later that year. January, I have, 3/4, 2/3 of a year to work on the car, and I'd been doing, what do you call it? Not preventative maintenance, but deferred maintenance. It didn't come with a lot of service records, so just making sure things worked. IMS, RMS, all that stuff. Cooling system, needed new fans, new clutch, tires, brakes.
And this is what's cool for all of you that are listening. This is an employee of Porsche Cars North America. Like, we still have cool car gearheads working for the organization, because there's other manufacturers out there that they're just like bean counters, and they're just like, they make cars based on committees that the buyers are saying that they want, and they just like dull cars. I mean, we have diehards in the building.
If I can expound on that, I mean, you figure it's still a company. People still want to, get their salaries, their benefits, and everything. And there's a lot of people, and to think about the fact that it's still, a company that's here to generate a profit, and yet we can still make special cars. And so imagine the loopholes that a product planner or an engineer and someone in procurement, someone in finance, imagine how many things all of them have to get right to make a Cayenne Turbo GT. No rational car company would ever that's the sure thing. That's gonna, because it's crazy.
Right.
But that's kind of our brand, and we get that. It's a certain joy to be able to look someone in the face and say, yeah, absolutely, this is a perfectly reasonable car. It combines the explosive power, the big interior space. You get excellent handling. You can customize it how you want it. It has road presence. It makes you feel good. I mean, that's what's awesome. Yeah.
And that's what defines what we're all about.
Exactly.
And we defy some logical thinking
Absolutely.
in other people's worlds, right? Well, let's dive into four-door Porsches and start off with the best-selling four-door, which is the Macan. And Manny and his wife are recent owners of a new Macan, and we got
new to us,
new to you. I got to finally drive the Macan electric. Yesterday was the turbo version with Turbo Night, and how's that for you in terms of the transition, I guess, between the already a very, very good product, the ICE version, which made it the most popular four-door, but then with the new conversion and everything, how's your world work in that sense?
It's been, I don't want to oversell it, because to me, I think it's amazing. As someone that's a fan of the brand, I've been there at the launch of some very notable cars like the 918, for example, the Taycan, but the Macan's different. The main reason being the Macan has, I don't want to put this in the wrong light, but it has the most compromise out of all of our other cars. So Taycan, people have said, oh, well, how come you guys didn't make an electric 911 as your first EV? Well, Taycan kind of is. And if you drive like a more touring-oriented 911, like a regular Carrera or a Carrera S with comfort options and everything, and you get into a Taycan, you can definitely this is basically just an electric long wheelbase 911.
Right. You
definitely get that feel. Macan's different. Macan is a much more global car. It has to appeal to a much broader spectrum of owner, and it's kind of, instead of the Porsche first, it's the customer first approach. What does the customer really need? We improved. I know a lot of people want to say that the rear seat is smaller, but I guarantee you hop out of a ICE Macan rear seat and you hop into the EV rear seat of the Macan, and you're going to it is roomier back here.
Roomier in the electric version.
Yeah, a roomier. It's a lot easier. That performance is a lot easier to access too.
Okay.
Because for people that have driven EVs, you don't need to put it in Sport Plus or anything. You can just punch it and you get all the torque right there. It's designed to be more. The breadth of capability is bigger. So in Sport Plus, it is stiffer. It hits harder. But then in normal mode, it's more comfortable. It also has one of the first cars where we put software as a priority. Am I saying it's the best software on the planet? No, but it's amazing in what it can do. The fact that it communicates with the cloud so effortlessly. I have a Taycan company car, and I'm just enthralled with the software aspect of it, which I never really would attribute to a Porsche. When I think of Porsche, I think of traditional driver's car. I actually want to keep my phone away. I just want the driving experience. But there is a way to have the software experience ride along in parallel with you. And I think if the car supports that, that is the right way to do it. Yeah. Instead of the software being number one, it's your willing co-pilot. And so, for example, not just the Macan and the Taycan, in effect, any of my model line cars actually, and I think the 911 as well, we have apps that connect to the car that help you plan a journey, for example. You don't have to sit there in the driver's seat, punching the screen. You
Right.
can pre-plan your route on your phone, send it to the car. There's things now where you can send it to your car, restaurants. For EV side charging, what you want to do for charging, our charging network is expanding by the day. Our roaming capabilities. We have an app store now in the Macan. The Cayman, the Macan is now going to be in our other cars for model year 26. Which again, normally you would never think of Porsche and an app store. Well, what's your passenger going to do in between twisty roads? There is a distance. If you're like hypothetically, if I was driving my car from Atlanta to Monterey again. My passenger is not just going to sit there bored going down the 40.
Right.
There's stuff for them to do as well, and to bring them into the driving experience, they can help be your co-pilot, for example. I mean, not to brag, but I'm a pretty good co-pilot because I know how to use the car. And so when I'm talking to a driver, I have to do right seat for customer programs, for example.
Right.
Oh, what are you looking for? And I know what to do. And here's that restaurant. There's a charging station. 100 yards away, we can either walk there, we can get food first, and it's like, what? Yeah, to just make that journey so much more seamless. Stuff we're doing with music. I know a lot of people like to listen to music in their cars. Taycan and Macan, they have the built-in app connectivity. You don't have to use your phone. You can listen to iTunes or Spotify directly in the car, and that's awesome, just without having to touch your phone. And I think that's the key, is having the technology in the car, but having it just melt in the car so that it's just part of the car. It's not, let me whip out my phone and do stuff. So that's probably been the most interesting part. And it's a different philosophy, much more so because it's, again, we've always put the customer first, but this is like the most extroverted way we've done that, I guess you could say, where you talk to a traditional Porsche owner and they're going to say, I don't need any of this stuff, but then they drive it, they get to really experience it and use it, and they go, oh man, I love this stuff.
I use two examples of that. When we bought a 2021 CPO Macan, and knowing some of these features from doing the media stuff, my wife didn't think she needed the cold seats, and she didn't think she needed surround view. But I was holding out for those two options. And now there's two features she absolutely loves. Surround view. When I explained to her what you can see from above and whatnot, she was so happy that I waited and got that option.
Yeah, so many of us think, I don't have it now, I don't need it. But then when you experience that particular option, if you would then take it away later, you're like, no, I gotta have it. Right?
Hey man, I had carbureted cars, I had fuel injected cars, and there's a time and place for the over the road. Give me a fuel injected car any day of the week. It's kind of like that.
So my limited time behind the wheel of the Macan Electric yesterday, obviously there was no planning involved because we were just driving locally. What I enjoyed was it was very intuitive. Everything was intuitive. Turning it on, putting it in the driving around. I like that it's not just one tablet, and you still have the tactile AC controls, and I love the volume. I've always loved a volume knob. I cannot stand pressing plus or minus to make volume go up and down. And it's just, if your hand falls and the volume knob's right there, it's very user friendly.
Yeah.
And
that's it. I mean, every once in a while, I'll do a media activation with someone that's not really a Porsche person, and they might say, I'm not a big fan of the shifter or whatever. And for me, I mean, we started the conversation with talking about 918. That's from the 918. That shifter is literally, that's the same geometry. And so that was the idea, is to kind of the mode dial as well, from the 918. And just to have that little piece of the 918, which kind of signifies the modernization chapter from a powertrain perspective of our brand, if you will. And to have that in the Macan Electric is such a cool callback, because that's the thing is, you're driving a Macan, but you're driving a Porsche.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's kind of the priority here. We don't want you to forget that. Not that you ever would, if you had one.
You feel everything about the characteristics.
That's it.
You sit in, you're in a Porsche.
Steering calibration, suspension, the customization. I mean, it's tough because I'm so into it, and then every once in a while I get to step out and see how the regular, the normal consumer and the Porsche consumer sees it, and it's like, we're doing the right thing, because by and large, the feedback has been very, very, very positive.
So how has it been having two powertrain options in one model, and how long will that go for?
It's been good. We don't, I'll answer the easy question right off the bat. As you know, I think we're slated to continue with that until next year.
For the ICE?
For the ICE,
Okay.
but I don't know what the plans are now. I know there's been rumors about a new ICE. Don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
As far as we're concerned, the trajectory right now is kind of actually on point for the Macan Electric to take over. The first quarter, we had over about a 45% split between electric and ICE. And the types of people that are buying the electric versus the ICE kind of lets us know, yeah, electric is going to just continue.
It's going to continue.
Yeah.
And that's what Manny's been saying all along. Once people experience it, just like cooling seats and such,
Well,
they're going to...
there's enough people now that have driven other electric cars.
Yeah.
And turns out huge swath of them came from a financial perspective, at least, a Porsche demographic bubble.
Yeah.
And so for them, it's not about how much the car costs, it's does the car do what I want it to do? We were talking about earlier before we started, that experience. And Porsche customers generally tend to prioritize the experience over, say, MSRP. You know what I mean? Like whatever, I want to feel this, and I'll buy the Porsche that gives me that. And people are starting to come around to that even on the electric side.
So what's the most popular model in the EV or gas?
Usually what happens is the most popular one is the newest one, right? Because you have an impulse when a new model comes out. That's what people tend to gravitate towards. Again, we're not a regular car where once a car is made, that car stays exactly the same for its life cycle. And I'm, much to the joy or consternation, sometimes both, of our fanatical buyers, we always have a little something special different every year.
Right.
So color palette will change, or some option, for example. And so for us, generally the best one, the one that sells the most is the newest one. Now, granted, once the model line is done and you can take that 30,000-foot view and look at the whole range as a whole, generally what you'll see is the top models will impulse really well, then kind of fade down as the regular buyers buy the normal cars, if you will. Then we'll get the impulse towards the end as the model line wraps up. And so right now we're in the peak, that middle Macan 404S.
So the top
range.
level trims.
Yeah. Well, Macan Turbo would be top.
Yeah.
And then the 4S and the 4 is the meat.
Oh, okay.
And then we have the rear drive model, which a lot of people in the snow belt just don't even consider because it doesn't have all-wheel drive. But I suggest they do, because we do offer winter wheel and tire packages.
Yeah.
And this is something that a lot of enthusiasts that have driven rear-wheel drive cars in the snow will attest to. It's not the wheels. It's not how many wheels are driven that matters. Yeah. It's what tires are on the car.
Right.
And with an electric car, the traction. Sorry for going into salesman mode here. But,
No.
With the electric cars, the really big benefit, especially in those austere conditions like snow or ice or whatever, is how fast they react to traction changes. And that's something that you cannot really sell someone on until they experience that themselves.
Right.
Like they have to go, wait a minute, my all-wheel drive ICE car couldn't go up this. How is this rear drive electric car doing? Well, it's just because each time that rotor is cogging, it can detect, it's going faster than I think it is, and adjust the power output individually. So, whereas an ICE car has to make like a full revolution for the computer to get enough data to figure out what's going on. This thing, after an eighth of a turn, it knows what the mu of the ground is, and
wow.
You can't beat that.
So are there particular options that, I guess we have to split this conversation of like regular car folks and like PCA and Porsche enthusiasts take?
Well, we don't.
Or do you?
Unfortunately, in the sales data, that's not separated out that way.
Yeah.
We only see that as a whole. And I think from our side, some of the more obviously premium package, that's always a good one. Rear axle steering, that's also also very popular. Big wheels, sound system, those are probably the big ones. Just because those improve the Porsche-ness of the car. Rear axle steering, I think, I can't speak more highly of that, especially in the Macan, because the Macan's already a pretty agile car, even without it. I would say, honestly, the steering, they did a really good job with the steering feel, but in conjunction with the rear axle steering, they actually slow down the front axle because the rear axle is contributing now.
Right.
And so what happens is when you're just driving at more steady speed, where the rear-axis steering isn't doing as much, you get nicer, kind of more everyday stability. So it's kind of this weird kind of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, Dr. Jekyll?
Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
Thing where you have this super agile car, which can drift, by the way, on the one hand, but just a really great highway car on the other. And we know that the majority of Macan owners are going to be using this to commute. They are going to just go on road trips with it, which is why it has such a comfortable normal mode. But it's a Porsche. We can't not make it do Porsche things, and we got Sport Plus for that.
So speaking of modes in Sport and Sport Plus, as you rotate that dial for a EV, what is that? Each step changing?
It's changing the suspension, the
throttle
gain,
sensitivity,
if you will. If you put, I don't recommend this, of course, on close course use only. But if you put your PSM into sport mode, it gives you a little bit more play, a little bit more wiggle room. If you've got PTV Plus, which is the clutch, the little electric motor that preloads the clutch pack rear differential, it'll preload that a little bit as well. Just a host of things to kind of tighten up the car. I think for the average consumer, Sport Plus, at least for me on the highway, certainly around Atlanta, is it's like, oh, this is crazy. But Sport is kind of that Goldilocks spot where you still get a ton of feedback from the wheel and from the chassis, but you're not getting beat up from our wonderful roads, and that's sarcasm.
Are most people, I would guess most people are just installing home chargers, or?
In fact, I'd say we're I remember when kind of the EV push came out and everyone was talking about, how come you guys, how come you guys aren't doing more public charging? It's like, well, most of our customers are homeowners. They already, they're already installing it. Either they're using the mobile charger and just mounting that on the wall, or they're buying a wall charger separately. But I don't have the exact number with the Macan, but with Taycan, it's like 90% are just home charging from home.
Yeah, and people don't have the way they're using it. They're not having range anxiety because they charge at home, and where they're going in a day, they're covered.
I'll tell you, the key metric for there is towards the end of the first kind of the original generation of the Taycan, the J1, the most popular configuration was small battery, rear drive, but on the 21-inch wheels, which is the absolute worst range. But nobody cared because they're charging at home. They can charge at the office.
It's a great price point with that package deal.
It looks
Like
fantastic.
a later car with more performance.
Exactly. With J12, the current Taycan, that metric is flipped on its head because the small battery J12 size-wise is within a kilowatt hour of capacity as the big battery of the old car.
Really?
So if you do big battery to big battery or little battery to little battery, the new battery is lighter. So you have the biggest weight disparity. If I had a model year 25 J1, like the last one they made, big battery, rear drive 21s, and I had a model year 21, one of the first J12s, small battery rear drive on 21s, that small battery car is going to have more power, it's going to go further, and it's going to be able to charge faster. So we really listened to what our customers wanted and what they expected from an electric Porsche, and we made sure to incorporate that into the J12 as well as the Macan as well. Because even though the J12 is faster and better charging, J11, I mean, it's still a pretty dang good car in and of itself. And you're still going to beat most people out of the Charger on a given day with that car.
Right.
And so, we always talk about, who our competition is. It's us. And we always want to kind of one-up ourselves. And that is so blatantly obvious when you see those two cars.
One last question on the Macans. I know e-hybrid platforms, kind of a resurgence lately. I don't think there are plans for that in a Macan, correct?
No, it's just our buyer base, people that are buying Macans, they kind of like what's going on. Honestly, the electric Macan satisfies most of those needs because most people that are buying plug-in hybrids, at least based on Cayenne Panamera data, they're just using it to commute.
Yeah.
So if you're just going to commute, then just get the electric car.
Just get the electric one.
Yeah, just go all in and get that. So.
Well, speaking of Cayennes, let's talk about them. And best-selling Cayenne is which one?
Same, just like what I mentioned.
The newest?
Yes, it's the newest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's right now probably GTS. So I'd be willing to bet if we pulled sales data right now, GTS would probably be pretty high. Obviously, the V6, the standard kind, is always perennial bestseller, no matter what. But then the other cars will impulse in and out based on just how new they are.
The shocking one is how well the Turbo GT sold.
Yeah. Well, because
Who needs that?
I mean, who needs a Porsche,
Right,
right?
exactly,
That's the
right?
thing, is that car really distills everything about our brand. I mean, I know 911 is our flag bearer. It's the flagship
Sure,
of the model of the range, but no car kind of embodies why we do what we do than the Cayenne Turbo GT, because you're absolutely right. It's not even legal for sale in some markets.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because of the emissions.
Oh.
And yet they still changed it from the launch version
Yeah.
to this version, and they still tweak little things. What brand would do that? Us, literally.
Another one that I'll admit that, and I remember this body style from, I think it was the BMW X6, sort of a coupe-ish SUV. I didn't get it, and then when the Cayenne went that direction, I'm like, uh-oh, what am I not understanding? Like, why a coupe? How did that
I
come
get
about?
this.
But now that I've been in it, I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, it is kind of cool.
I get this a lot from traditional automotive media. Coupe SUV, you're making it worse. Our buyers, they prefer the style. And generally, when you do coupe to SUV, generally the coupe, we include certain options and features on the coupe to make it a little bit more desirable. On top of that, Turbo GT, for example, you can only get in a coupe. Our coupe to SUV, as an average body style rate, is like upper 20s to low 30s% are buying coupes. And so,
wow.
yeah, and so we're not getting rid of those. And in fact,
Wow.
right now,
That's a lot higher than I would have guessed.
with this generation, with this E32 generation, you can get a coupe in every body style. In fact, there's less versions of the SUV because there's no such thing as a Turbo GT SUV.
Right.
And so you can get a coupe in way more body styles than ever before. And honestly, our buyers are buying coupes. If they want a big car, they'll buy a big car.
Right.
They want the right size car. And that's the key is, what's been really difficult for me to explain to people that think that if they're buying a Cayenne, that's the only car they're buying. Most of our customers have more than one car. Most of our buyers buy a car based on what they want, not what they need. And so for them, a Cayenne Turbo E hybrid coupe with an oak green Neo and gold wheels and full leather interior, if that's what you want, we got it. We got you.
And I think this maybe goes in line with a lot of folks. This is probably more extreme, like going from a SUV to a minivan. Like, oh man, that's like that. I do not want to do that. There's people that would see going to an SUV in that sense, or like they're giving up their livelihood by going into an SUV. But if they're going into an SUV that's a coupe, that's stylish and is set apart from other cars, that's what they want.
Exactly. And, we listen to what our customers want. I mean, that's the thing is when you're a brand like us where we live and die based off of kind of what the heart wants, you have to listen. And not just listen to their words, but look at what they're buying, look at the rest of their lifestyle, incorporate all of those into the decision matrix to how to move forward. Right now, it's a good time. It's a good time because we have such a wide variety of people of buyers that allows us to have a broad pool of cars. Some cars that are priced competitively within the range, so that makes you stop and think, what car do I want? In the old days, it was easy. I just buy the most expensive one. Now, we price them, at least on the Cayenne side, for example, where they're within a band where you can kind of decide, do I want a hybrid? Do I want a V8? Do I want, just an NA?
It's a pretty full buffet that you can
That's
choose
it.
from. Right?
That's exactly it, and that's the whole idea. Is we want to make sure you're getting the car that will make you the happiest.
Let's see, the different powertrains.
Yeah.
What's the roadmap for the future of the Cayenne? I don't know if you can talk about it, but we're assuming at some point the full electric Cayenne is going to come. But for now, you've got the different gasoline or ICE engines, and then you've got the e-hybrid.
We are 100% committed to making whatever powertrain that our customers want. And right now they want full internal combustion, they want plugins, they want EVs.
Yeah.
They're obviously different consumers, but we have those individual pillars of consumers that want those types of powertrains. And so we're going to keep doing that. The Cayenne electric variants, hopefully we'll be having some news at the end of the year. I'm excited for that car because it takes, you almost got me to spill some beans there.
Darn it, so close.
So
close.
I was going to say, stay tuned.
He was so comfortable. And I didn't even have to deal with alcohol. So close.
Almost.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's switch over to my favorite Grand Tour, and that's the Panamera. And honestly, I don't know how it or the future of it, because I feel like there's so many like it's kind of like
this is
the Panamera is
don't look at volume as the only indicator of
yes, that's what I was worried about.
Because our Panamera customer is rock steady, and it's as consistent as the sunrise and sunset. I mean, that's the thing, is it's a fantastic car. We know what the Panamera customer wants. And I just gave this analogy a week ago or a few days ago, I don't remember, but basically it's like a lenticular cloud above a mountain, that lens-shaped cloud. That cloud, to us as the outside viewer, looks different, but to the air particles moving through, it passes in and out, and that's the Panamera. People age into the Panamera, then they age out into some other car, and that doesn't change. I mean,
but it's a significant enough volume that it's not going to go away.
It's not going to go away.
Good job.
And honestly,
that's good to hear.
And honestly, from a functional perspective, it does do some things that a 911 can't do. It's got 4 real seats, for example. It's sportier than a Cayenne. It has more range than a Taycan. If there was a spider chart of our cars, the Panamera would be one of the cars that like has the most even web, if you will, just because it does everything pretty nicely. Yeah. Some variants do some things better, like Panamera Turbo SE Hybrid on Michelin Pilot Cup Sport Cup 2s. That's a beast. The regular V6 Panamera is just a sweetheart of a car, perfect for day to day.
I would love to have a Panamera 4.
That's the thing. When I think about I imagine my dad, if he could buy a Panamera, that's the one he'd get. When I was a little kid, and he'd go to work with the briefcase and everything. That's kind of like that car to me. And then the hybrid models, which really are staggeringly competent in how much range they have in e-power mode, but also just the boost that they provide, that electric motor provides.
I think Damon and we tested the range in the e-hybrid. I think we went for pretzels or something and did a round trip tour. And
I don't know if you can hear, but it was only at 17 miles at that point.
Yeah.
I'm sure the e-range is more nowadays.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Now, I mean, the average commute, I think, I remember reading, was like around 38 to 42 miles. Yeah. And most of our PF customers are able to do that all on one charge. So
is that, but I imagine Panamera is a more popular car in other markets.
Probably. I can't speak to that because I don't see other market sales data. I see global and ours still is a pretty good chunk of that. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a secret that my guess would be China would probably be, because they still appreciate sedans. Yeah. The American customer they've moved on from sedans in a way, but there are still people that gravitate towards them. I love sedans. Yeah, I mean, I think it's like style, like bell-bottom jeans or whatever. Like things are cyclical, and I'm hoping that the next generation of enthusiasts will kind of go back to sedans because their parents had SUVs, and I'm sick of these tall, ungainly vehicles. Yeah.
Right. I used to always say we were given a lot of Panameras to drive when we were in Germany, and I still think that it's the ultimate Autobahn burner.
It is. Yeah.
You can do 150 and you're completely comfortable, no grip of death. You get off into the little German roads, and no offense to German roads, but they're just not as wide as the American roads. Yeah. And suddenly it becomes like I feel like I'm driving something bigger than my Suburban, especially in parking garages. Yeah. And I always think it's at home in America with our roads, but we don't have the Autobahn where we can go 150.
Well, Well, if you've been around these parts, you wouldn't know that. It sure seems autobahny to me. I mean, I'll be going 10, 15 over, and I'm getting past. So.
We don't have the lane discipline
There
here.
you go. Bingo. That's exactly it. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah.
We do have the grip of death here because you don't know
Thankfully.
what someone's going to do.
Thankfully, our brakes are Autobahn tested, so that's good.
Panamera EV?
I mean, you could argue that that's the Taycan. I know a lot of people think that the Taycan's, cannibalizing Panamera sales. It's not. Panamera sales have been fairly flat. Taycan customers, I'm sure some have come from Panamera. Some have come from 911. But most are new, thankfully. Most are new to the brand.
So maybe this question is more general in scope of manufacturers. Are manufacturers still have the ability to decide that they want a model to stay ICE for at least a decade or so? The government or whomever isn't pushing that your full lineup has to be EV by a certain date.
Well, it's never been a thing of the government's mandating an OEM to make electric cars, right? It's always been, so far at least the markets that I'm more aware of, like the U.S., you have an emissions amount a pool of emissions you're allowed to emit based on how many cars you manufacture,
Right.
And it's up to you as the brand to divvy up where those emissions go. And so it's kind of like if you do role-playing games and you're making a character and you're building out your character stats and your stamina, intelligence, charisma, like where do you put that?
Okay.
And so a brand that's thinking more big sky and is looking a little bit farther down the road, I think is in a better position to better stack their deck to be more agile. I think we're very fortunate that our leaders have had that vision. And we came out with the Taycan, but we also came out with new 911s. We came out with Macan, but we also have a Cayenne Turbo GT. We never put our eggs in one basket. From a messaging perspective, we did. But from a manufacturing or engineering, I don't think there's a doubt at all in anyone's mind that we have a very wide range of powertrain options available for whatever customer walks through the door. And so as long as we have that visibility, that vision down the road of what we can and can't emit and what our customers will and won't buy, there is that Venn diagram of the two, and it allows us to be laser focused to hit
So I guess
that
it's
target.
similar to when the Boxster and when the Cayenne came out, and people are like, "Oh, Porsche's losing their focus because it's really the 911." But the Boxster and the Cayenne grew the business to allow Porsche to be able to keep the 911.
That's it.
So very much like with these electric and e-hybrid platforms, if they sell well and do well, it gets you credit, so to speak, so that you can do the specialty cars on the side.
I mean, from our perspective, there's, if I could be a little cheeseball, there's a Porsche buyer in all of us. There's a car for everybody. And obviously, we physically can't make enough cars for the entire market.
No.
And so we have to kind of limit our scope of the net that we spread to capture what customers buy our cars. And we did our best to have a range of cars that satisfy a broad customer base, because that you never want to put all your eggs in one basket. You want to have a diversified portfolio, not just in powertrains, but also in model lines. And so, having a compact crossover that's electric, slightly bigger compact crossover with a twin turbo V8, luxury sedan, a sport two-seater sports car. Like, these are all tactical decisions to look in segments that have a space for us to kind of use the turn signal and get into that lane. And I think that's the key is, we make cars obviously that people want to buy, but critically that are cool too, right? I mean, we can make cool cars all day, every day, but if no one wants to buy them, then what's the point? So it has to satisfy both,
Oh. So you talked about the latest generation of the Taycan. You call it, is it J2?
J12.
J12. Okay. They're starting to hit the dealers. What's the newest? I guess the differences between the facelift and the first.
I mean, the big one's going to be, so if you're a regular car guy, the big difference is going to be the front face, the fascia. smoothed out the front end, a little bit more a little bit more aerodynamic wheels. The fenders come up just a hair more, so even with the seat all the way down, I can see the tops of both fenders still.
The signature, right?
Yeah, signature. Yeah. If you're an EV guy or gal, if you're an EV person, then it's going to be the battery. I would say that's the number one. There's new motors in the car as well, but almost, if you could make an analogy, the battery's the engine and the motor's the transmission, right? And so as a gearhead, you care more about the engine. I mean, you care about the transmission, of course.
Right.
But it's the engine that's the key. It's the heart of the car. And the battery, I mean, we have a lot more capacity. It's a different pouch cell chemistry. Gives us a lot more energy density, and it's lighter. Gives us a higher output power and better charging. So, I mean, literally full range of the gamut. It's just a better battery. Yeah.
Now, did I read somewhere that the newer batteries are like more serviceable, or they have the?
They're just as serviceable as our old battery. I think what you're seeing is there's just more and more techs that are competent or kind of learning the ropes on that, which is kind of normal. Our Taycans, there's not millions of them on the road, so for some service techs, their first Taycan might be the one that they just got last week. You know what I mean? And so we just have to be kind of accept that as more and more of these cars go out, the knowledge floor kind of goes up and up and up. And a lot of things that we take for granted with like 911, again, talking about 996, like the pitfalls, the things to look out for during a PPI, we're just forming that on Taycan, And the more of those cars are out on the market, that battery of knowledge is going to be out there. Unlike back in the 996 days where forums were not really a thing. Now forums are, and so I'll go on one of the myriad of Taycan forums, and there's a lot of super insider knowledge, and I think because the Taycan buyer, there's a group of buyers that bought Taycans that had that same kind of super precise surgical level of like desire to know about the car, with the background of Porsche, so they can put the proper filters on to dig into that and go, okay, so these codes mean this means that, and interpret that properly. I think that's done a big bonus for our market.
Manny likes to talk about the advancement of the cell phones and the batteries and such. The pace at which this technology is coming out now, I've got to imagine in 10 years down the road, more capacity, more power. I mean, maybe even a little bit lighter or something like that.
Is there any different to 911? I mean, you think about, you think, I know, for example, 911s have gotten heavier since the first one, but they've also gotten way more competent in what they can do. I mean, from the EV side, we're still listening. We still don't know if we've got the exact right formula. So you look at the Taycan, you look at the Macan. Let's see what the next generation is going to look like. I mean, Cayenne's coming out, and that's going to be a good indicator of the direction that we're going from that EV perspective. So
I'm going to ask you, internal combustion engine, where we've really slowed down the development, and we're reaching maybe max capacity. Where EV, it's like really high.
If Porsche's taught me anything, there's no peak. It's just what levers have we not touched that we can touch now? And that's all that is. Like,
you're not going to see 50 horsepower increases from one year to the other out of a gas engine, unless you're talking hybrid or.
I mean, that's the thing though, is as I think GTST hybrid has shown that people buyers' proclivities against electrification were grossly overestimated, because the moment anyone drives one of those, it's like, oh my gosh, this is something I'm really into. And so, okay, maybe we don't get a 50 horsepower improvement, but what if we get 35 horsepower and 50 pound-feet of torque? Is that so bad? I don't know. I think that's good. I don't know what the direction is going to be. I know the engineers are working tirelessly. They're fighting tooth and nail. I mean, all this innovation also costs money to do, and that's that's something that's hard to come by in this market. So it's a balancing act. There's still a huge demand. That's what makes us happy. We're not going anywhere. Our cars aren't going anywhere. I think that's the key.
Let's talk about the Turbo GT and the Weissach edition. On paper, to the normal person, that car makes absolutely no
I love
sense.
it. Yes.
No sense at all.
Yes.
But I love the fact that you all went down. How did that all come about?
I mean, basically, we had the Turbo S, and we grossly underestimated the number of performance-oriented EV buyers. You know, we thought the Taycan was going to be a great touring car. So like the example I gave about the electric 911 and taking the touring version of the 911, that's kind of what the J1 was all about. And the Turbo S being the top model for that kind of philosophy. This Turbo GT, we listened to our customers and said, look, guys, why aren't you making a proper sports version of this platform? I think, selfishly, I think the Taycan is one of the best cars on the market today. Like as far as the build, the engineering, the driving feel, how it communicates to you, how you communicate back to the car, it ticks all the boxes, right? But what if we could do more? And that Turbo GT is exactly that. I mean, and I'm not sure if I can say this, but at the moment, more people are buying the Weissach pack than the 4-seater version.
Really? That's crazy.
We thought it was going to be the opposite.
Wow.
We thought like, no one's going to buy it. Who else is going to buy it? Yeah, no rear seats, wing, no interior. Only one charging port. Turns out there is a passion for performance cars.
To have the top car. To have the top car. Wow.
So you buy a Turbo GT without the Weissach, everyone's going to ask you, why didn't you get the
Why did you
Weissach?
get
That's not, I feel like that's the thing is like if you're gonna go all the way, I guess. I haven't spent a lot of time with either of the top model cars like that, but at least talking to the drivers that have driven it, they come away like this. This is insane. This is a Porsche. This is only something that we could do. And I know there are other cars that may make more horsepower or whatever, but continuous lapping, lap after lap, that's kind of what our car does.
What amazed me about that car was how easy it is to drive.
Yeah.
I told people, I went to a track I'd never been to.
Yeah.
Granted, I have track experience, but I would never have, in my 964, gone that fast on an opening lap where I didn't know what the next corner was going to bring me. Granted, I was following somebody, but I would never have done that.
It's a fantastic interplay between I'll name drop your sponsor, Pirelli, the Trofeo RS tires that are new for that car, as well as the active right suspension.
Yeah.
That combination just
so confidence inspiring. I felt most secure and probably the quickest on a track in a Taycan.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah, like I said,
don't get me wrong. I love the analog sounds of a GT3 RS and this, that, and the other. That was very cool too. But as far as being like just point and shoot and play and look over there and want to be over there and from the street to the track, it is so seamless in a Taycan. And I love the sedan platform and how you sit low into it, and all the ergonomics is very familiar. And I know this is starting to sound like a commercial, but really, like, don't poo-poo it until you've driven one, because I was kind of the same way. I'm like, how am I going to like this car? What, is it really going to be? Thank goodness there's enthusiasts like yourself that are still, pulling the levers, as you said earlier, to making products that are true to what Porsche is all about. Yes, it might be a different powertrain, but the what it's going to be distilled into is still very much a Porsche.
My biggest struggle was it has paddles. And I think it might be the only one that has paddles.
Yep.
So
call that the GTS now, yeah.
They're not gears. They're regen and boost, the boost.
Yeah.
But
attack mode,
you're going 9/10, and your head reverts back to what you know. And so I would go into a corner and I would hit downshift, thinking I was shifting gears, remembering I'm not shifting gears. I'm hitting regen. So you had to get past that.
You're not the first to say that.
So what's it like for, I know we can't necessarily talk about future stuff here because we have some guidelines to follow, but what excites you about being in the seat that you're in now and with the product lineup and where we might end up?
I mean, from my perspective, it's, again, as an enthusiast, not just of cars, but of the automotive industry, it's such an interesting time to be here in this position. And I'm pretty sure if you go to any car company, people that interface that get a really good inside look at the company, as well as work with media or any outside influences, I think they'd say the same thing, because things are changing day by day. The customers are changing, I think, as well. The internet has really helped to speed up kind of the spikiness of the acceptance curve, if you will. In the old days, the ramp was always very slow because it took forever. It took forever for word of mouth to get around. But now, if you watch a TikTok or YouTube or Instagram and you see something that tickles your fancy, boom, there's a little spike.
Yeah.
And so you'll have now the greatest range of buyer you could possibly have. So, for example, you'll have someone that is on their third generation EV product coming into the showroom to only want a Macan. Because this is now going to be their fourth EV they've had through full life cycles, and their luxury customer, they're not interested in a 911. They don't even they don't care about kind of.
They come in very specific.
Yeah, I want a Porsche EV.
Yeah.
And to them, Porsche is an EV brand, which is crazy. Then the next person through the door is going to be manual transmission or die. Give him my gas. And that's and we've got a car for them too. And then you'll have the next person will be just someone like me that just commutes. That I like to go on road trips, but honestly, my commute's 30 something miles round trip. Give me a Panamera PHEV or a Cayenne PHEV or whatever. Yeah. And those three customers
can be served.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
In an exciting product that is still true to the Porsche brand.
Exactly. And they're all genuinely Porsches. And, all three customers will, mosey up to the configuration bar if there was such a thing.
Yeah.
And they can spec the cars exactly how they want. Get their cars, they're not forced to get specific whatever, And I think that's one of the true joys of the brand is watching people. Yeah, I get it. Probably most people just want to get in and get out with a car. But I sincerely hope if anyone's considering a Porsche is to, go in and actually go through the process of speccing their car, or at least considering it, Because, that, to me, that's the best, is to follow that journey. And, on Reddit or Facebook, or whatever, just seeing the number of people that are following Track Your Dreams and I can't wait, the car's out of the factory. That's part of the joy. Yeah. No one needs a Porsche. You didn't need to buy it, you know. And so we want to make it as fun, as exciting, and as enjoyable to engage with that.
That's part of the experience.
That's
right?
it.
And there's people that don't understand that or have never purchased a car in that fashion, but you want them to experience, because once they've gone through that, you're in. That's the expectation. That is the new bar for them.
And you're a part of the family. That's the thing, is one of the coolest things is listening to Macan owners. I remember when Macan came out, I launched the original Macan, and them being accepted. PCA accepted them. By Macan owners being accepted by traditional Porsche owners was like, oh wow.
But I think
I'm a Porsche owner.
You had a softening because of the Cayenne. The Cayenne paved the way for a lot of it.
And now I don't really get any. I thought the Macan Electric we were going to get some pushback, but no. It's hilarious. One funny story a journalist conveyed to me is they took their child to a Cars and Coffee event, but this one had predominantly 356s, older 911s. Yeah. And then one of the 356 guys went up to the journalist and says, "Hey, what's it like to have the fastest car in the lot?" And they parked right next to the other cars, and it's just like, "Yeah, welcome to the family," and want a donut. It's like that's kind of what what this is all about, because at the end of the day, whether you're buying an EV, a PHEV, or an ICE car, by buying a Porsche, you're saying, I want this car. I didn't buy a car because I needed it. I bought it because I wanted it, and I wanted something that was fun to drive. That's the key. I wanted something engaging. Yeah. I don't want to be bored with my car. I want to look back anytime I'm walking away from the car, look over my shoulder, take a picture of it, wherever, That's our buyers. And I think fundamentally we transcended beyond SUV, sedan, sports car to, do you like cars or not?
Right.
Are you a car, and you don't have to be a car person. You don't have to be on your back in between meetings fixing video cam pads, to be considered a car. But just, do you like just that feeling of getting in it, turning on the car, and just like, this feels so good.
You don't have to be 100% crazy car person, but I feel like when people say, "Oh, I want a Porsche," I have to qualify them a little bit, because if they're the type of person that's just going to be happy with a Corolla or Camry, and no hate against Corollas or Camrys, but I feel like you need to go into this thinking that you're going to be into something special, because that's the whole thing. If you're not even wanting to care about that, I just go buy something else that's plain.
It's tough. I mean, because I get feedback. Oh, why didn't you guys do it this way? And it's like, because we didn't want to.
Yeah.
And if you don't, I know it sounds glib. I know it sounds very very exclusionary. But if you're not into it, you don't have to buy it. You know, that's the thing, is that's what a free and open market's all about, is you can get what you want. Our cars were designed the way they are and put to sale because our customers, the people that are buying our cars, have said, yeah, this is kind of what we're looking at. And I appreciate that people want to push the brand forward, maybe in directions that it doesn't need to go, but I appreciate that. And we always consider, that feedback. Like I said, software, when I think about our brand and software, that we listened.
Mm-hmm.
We heard from our buyers that, hey, if you're going to do this, it should be good.
Right.
And we're not, like I said, it's not perfect, but it's so much better than where it was before, and that's the key. The usability of it, the flexibility of it, and we don't lock you into one ecosystem. You can use your phone. You can do phone mirroring. You can do PCM. You can do a mix of both, and we try to make it as flexible and putting you as the driver as the focus as possible. Yeah.
So, and not to get into politics, we're going to have to say the word tariff. It triggers for people, but let's talk about supply. I think in the four-door segment, if you're looking to get into one, you had mentioned that Porsche made some moves early on that right now you're pretty comfortable.
Comfortable is probably not the right word. But we don't know what the future is going to hold. I mean, we did what we had to do to keep the lights on. What the next steps are, no one knows. Honestly, I know the guys upstairs are working feverishly, literally around the clock, because things change day by day. Demand changes. That's the thing, is what normally would be a year-over-year approach is day by day. But you still have to give it the same amount of visibility. You still have the scrutiny, if you will. Mm-hmm. And so, I feel for them. I mean, those guys are working hard and burning the midnight oil to try to make.
Last night I was watching the news, and they're talking about container ships not coming in and this, that, and the other. But you guys are, I guess, forward thinking enough. Like, supply for four doors right now in the U.S. It's there.
I mean,
dealers have cars.
Was that a tactical decision, or was that just a backlog? Because, if you follow, we don't need to get too much into this, but it's half of one and a dozen of one, six of the other. I mean, it's just, it worked out the way it is.
Yeah.
From our side, you worrying about the cars that are on the ground versus the cars that are supposed to be on the ground, that's probably the bigger worry for us. Because, I mean, even if we had a year's worth of supply or 2 years worth of supply, ultimately we have to keep the doors open and the lights on longer than that. So we'll see. Like I said, it's a day-by-day shifting moment.
Is that a benefit of the Chinese market going down, that we got more cars?
That was.
Has anything changed? Has anything changed in terms of the ability to special order a car, or?
At the moment, I don't think there's any difference there. We still have paint to sample capability on all of our cars. NVDs are still happening.
Okay.
That's the thing is, I hear from people things are going one way, but then
the reality.
Yeah, I don't see it.
Right?
People are still taking deliveries. We had we had a great drivers group here. I think 2 weekends ago they auctioned off a new car that just came off a boat.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, maybe one person's scenario, they're applying that to everybody. But as you know, like if you've bought a Porsche, I mean, there's a myriad of reasons why your car did not arrive on the exact date to the showroom that it was supposed to arrive, and until you hear from, either the company from us directly or from your dealer, I wouldn't gather guests, because literally we've had to change statements by the hour. So what I'm saying literally right now might be totally different.
Yeah,
when this
as you
goes
said
on air.
earlier,
Yeah.
the folks upstairs,
Yeah.
man, got to give it to them.
It's going to make it harder because now you give the customer full tracking access. I see this on Reddit all the time, where people are tracking their cars as it's coming into port, and then they're saying, how long does it take once it hits the port for the dealer to get it? And
Well, it keeps us honest. I mean, we, like I said, no one needs a Porsche, so we have to do our best to make sure that the want is still there. Thankfully, our customers are generally pretty, as long as we're open and honest and transparent, generally our customers are pretty accepting of delays, especially if it's like, hey, we're going to do a software update a week from now. We're just going to hold your car instead of making you bring it in after you just, most people are fine with that, thankfully. So on the one hand, you could say this costs some headaches, but on the other hand, having the customer be part of that journey from the beginning, I think, is a little bit nicer too, and really reinforces that this isn't just
it's a relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a
We're not
relationship,
just, it's not just a sell. It's a give and take. We need them as much as they need us. So.
Well, let me take this time to just remind folks to head over to PCA.org and sign up for PCA's newsletters. We have performance news, e-brake news, and Mart Fresh, all free. I want to remind you that Porsche Parade Oklahoma City, July 6th through 12th, Phase 2 is now open. We've got a lot of exciting things to plan for you. We've got Works Reunion. We talked about Works Reunion earlier. This year, Monterey is going to be August 15th, 2025. Registration opened May 14th. And of course, we have Treffin at Sea, 2025, the 70th anniversary cruise that is sailing August 30th to September 6th. Let's see what else. Sim racing. If you're looking to race side by side with some PCA members online, check out PCASimRacing.com. PCA Insider Swag. Check out our bottles, our mugs, our t-shirts. If you want to rep the insider wear, do that. If you're just looking for decals, send us your address information to podcast@pca.org and we'll send you a set straight to your house. And with that, Calvin, it's always a pleasure. We could probably go another hour easily, but I see hands waving that our time is up here and we've got a couple other meetings to attend to. Thank you so much for joining us. Manny, anything else before we wrap it up?
Nope, there'll be a part 2.
There'll be a part 2.
Thanks for having me, Vu and Manny.
Everyone, thank you for listening. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Consider sharing our show with fellow Porsche enthusiasts. Until next time, stay safe, and we'll catch you down the road.